welcome back to the channel. In this episode I'll show you guys how I facelifted my work table's metallic surface into this much nicer wooden one. So I have used this raw new desktop sheet whatever for a while now, and now it was finally time to do something about it. And why I decided to renew this table in the first place. Well, it was kinda cool to have a metallic desktop for a couple of years, but pretty much always I have ended up in some wooden, more natural feeling and looking outcomes. And also, overall, I need a table for upcoming unboxing videos indoors because indoors warm and the container studio cold, and also it's a mess at the moment. By the way, we are going to start a container build series soon as well, so if you are thinking of how to insulate and build out your container, subscribe and YouTube will let you know of our new videos if you select that notification thingy next to the subscribe button. Anyway, this table is going to be used also for all the small fix-ups, setting up my camera gear and other stuff. I just love all the hands-on stuff, and this little project wasn't an exception. We have quite tight corners in our office, so I decided to cut off the corners of this new desktop first. And next I cut these little slots on the back edge because of the structure of the table. After the slot cutting, it was time to change to my other favorite tool, the Volt battery router. I beveled all the edges for a nicer appearance and for practical reasons as well. The corners can take more hits and don't crack so easily, you know. And due to obvious limitations of the router, I had to bevel the last corners by hand. The last dusty part was to brush the surface a bit with a steel brush. Especially the spruce's grain, pattern, whatever it's called, varies quite a bit. The darker, let's call them grains, are harder and lighter grains are softer. So here I am trying to create more structure and depth on the surface, but to be honest, with the sandblaster the outcome would have been much better. But maybe next time. Alright, next let's get inside. Alright, now we have to mount this new desktop somehow. First I considered glue or Velcro for easier removal, but I ended up using the rivet nuts and bolts. I know it may not be the most practical option, but I think it's gonna look cool and the bolts are guaranteed to keep the new desktop straight. First, I am drilling pilot holes through the desktop to ensure the rivet nuts and bolts will definitely align. And after the pilot holes, I'm drilling the actual holes on the sheet metal and to the new desktop. And now this project becomes even more interesting as I get to start playing with this rivet nut thingy. First thing is to drill these holes larger so the rivet nut will just fit in the hole. And then I take this weird gadget, this Sigma rivet nut drill adapter, and change the smaller 6mm core, whatever it's called, as I'm using smaller nuts than the last time. Changing this core is actually not that complicated as it may seem, but some concentration is needed though. And I guess there could have been some useful information in the manual, but seems like once again I managed to pull this off without instructions. This rivet nut works the same way as normal pop rivets, if you have seen those somewhere. It's just that in this rivet nut there's threads, so you can tighten a bolt in this rivet nut, which makes the connection super strong. So first I screwed this nut by hand on the core and on slow speed started to tighten the nut until I felt it's tight. And then same thing to rest 3 spots. I didn't have the right length bolts yet, so I just tested the alignment of the holes with the longer screws, and everything was spot on, so it was time to move to the next phase. As a finishing coat, I used Osmocolor Eben 3 Shade 3 Wax. I have been using their stuff for over 20 years already, and I and my clients have always been super satisfied with the outcome. I applied Osmo 2 layers, the next one on the following day, and left all the tools outside meanwhile, as there is a risk of rags setting themselves in a fire. I usually apply the wax first by brush or even with a short-haired roller if the surface is bigger, just to speed up the process and to avoid drying lines. I try to apply the wax as little as possible, and right after I wipe all the extra wax with a cloth, in this case an old sock, or with a piece of foam. And here goes the second layer, nothing special here. Second and the following rounds are usually a little bit faster as the wood isn't absorbing the wax so much anymore. Alright, the third day and the new desktop is dry enough for the final assembly. I found these super cool washers and hex bolts from the hardware store, and they look even better than I was hoping. So the last phase is just to screw these bolts tightly using my Vera Hex Plus keys. And once again I drilled the holes a little bit too small, and the wood has swollen a bit, so the bolts didn't set as easily as a couple days back. But leaving the first bolts a little bit loose first, I managed to get all the bolts on threads and tightened tight. Let me know if you have any questions. Let's see this brand new desktop on the next unboxing video. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day. Bye.